Hello everyone and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig.
Hello.
Hello Ludwig. Today we're gonna talk about conveyance. Now Ludwig, what is conveyance?
Yeah, so this is a term. I don't know if he coined it, but we got it from him at least. Boghog, the fantastic game designer. He has a Patreon post about it. But it's basically, maybe a bit self-explanatory, right? But it's like how the game conveys its mechanics, right? So to give a good example of conveyance, we can look at something like The Witness, right? Where it's this puzzle game with lines that you draw, and then there are a bunch of rules. None of the rules are ever explained in the game. The game is just laid out in a way where like the player discovers the rules for themselves. And so the game is very good at conveying its mechanics.
Right. I
Yeah.
do wanna point out, maybe
Point it out.
maybe we'll have a discussion about it later
Yeah.
in the episode. But like, I feel like you are correct. He is very focused on the conveyance thing, right? In his design, Jonathan Blow, I feel like. But it's also not he's still not how should I say this? He is not going too far, I guess. Compared to, so like we'll get to that later with like yellow paint and stuff, right? He's not what's an English equivalent to that expression?
Like he's not overly
making an idiot of them.
Yeah,
the Swedish expression, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, like infantilizing or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So he's like conveying it, but he's not like it's more like no, you're a intelligent individual. You'll get it, right?
Yeah,
and leaving a lot of hints, right?
Yeah.
So there is a difference there, I guess, as well. But that's not really exactly what we want to start out with, I feel like. So keep going.
Yeah. There is sort of another way to look at conveyance that I want to like present before we move on to the main topic, which is in form of like game feedback. Right, so like hit feedback and like effects and sounds and stuff like that. So I would say
GUI,
that,
right, as well, GUI.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that there's like two main kinds of conveyance, right? There's the like game structure conveyance, which is like the witness type, where like how the game guides you through the game, and then there's like the, what do you want to call it, like gameplay element
feedback,
conveyance, which
feedback.
is like feedback.
There's probably more to it than that.
Yeah, true. But those are like the main two.
Yeah.
Yes. But this is like our thesis of today. And that is
our totally original thesis, right?
Yes, totally original.
Not stolen
thesis.
at all.
Not stolen. Which is that conveyance is incredibly overrated in modern game design, and especially like Boghog said in his Patreon post, that bad conveyance does not equal bad design.
Yeah.
Now we're getting spicy. And so maybe, I don't know, will you allow me to start with my favorite example that I always bring up, and that our viewers are gonna know what I'm gonna bring up now?
Sure.
Yeah, Counter-Strike. So, Counter-Strike is a game that I enjoy a lot. And it also has some of the most terrible conveyance that a shooter has ever had. One really good example of that is the fact that you're inaccurate when you're moving. And that is basically not communicated to the player at all. Except for the fact that when you shoot, your bullets go literally everywhere. Like not even close to the center of your
screen. But you still have no feedback of it. Unless you stand next to a wall and look.
That is true. Yes, that's also another point where CS is very bad conveyance-wise. There's like no feedback for on your bullets. Like you, it's very hard to see where they're going. Like you can see that they're going everywhere, but you can't really see. Oh, that bullet went that way. That bullet went the other way.
I mean, you can't even see where they're going if you don't have a wall next to you.
That's true.
Right, yes. you can't even see if they're going ahead, like, because they're Which to be clear, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's how CS works, right? That's sort of the point, right?
Exactly. That's sort of the point I wanted to get to, which is that this is not necessarily bad. This is just the way CS is, right? And if you added more feedback to the like aim movement penalty and to where your shots were going and so on, the game would become different and, in my opinion, probably worse.
Yeah.
I think the way CS works is especially interesting because the feedback is so bad on everything related to shooting, except for when you headshot someone. The moment you headshot someone, it's like the most satisfying loud clonk feedback sound, and like the enemy like throws his head back and like there's blood splatting everywhere. And like,
but you still don't get any feedback if you don't like. I guess I'm trying to compare it to like other shooters, right?
Yeah.
Compared to that, it's still nothing. Like I get for you that because like this is also a part of it, right? The conveyance that is there is more clear to you because you've played a lot of CS. You're like, that hit, right? But if you're new and you haven't played a lot of CS before, right? Let's say you played a lot of Call of Duty that has the right?
hit markers,
and all this hit sound as well. That game has way more conveyance in that way, right? So for someone that have played, and like some of them have like, I think maybe some Call of Duty have, I'm not sure. Like the if you hit headshots, it's like a different one. It's like red or something.
Yeah, I think it glows red and stuff, right?
So they have way more conveyance, right? It's so I'm not saying there is none in CS. I'm just saying like you need to actually look, because it's not like you're getting all these feedbacks. Like what am I trying to say? Like yes, you can if you look, you'll see like you said there's like you hit them and stuff, right? But it's not like in your face like in modern games. Is my point.
Yeah. Well, the headshots, maybe it's more that it's like compared to the rest, it becomes so obvious because like there is basically no feedback for everything else except headshots. But like the headshots,
do they have a feedback sound for headshots?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
Like it's very clear. Yes, I believe so.
I'm not too sure.
Have you never played CS?
I don't remember that, so maybe that's a Go thing. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'm pretty sure they've always had it.
Huh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, like the feedback for hitting the head is very good.
I guess I'm bad at CS.
Yes, probably. Yeah, it's because you never hit the headshot in CS ever, yeah. But anyways, I want to bring up why this is interesting. So, as someone who plays CS a lot, there are a lot of scenarios where I enter a duel with another player and I shoot at them and they kill me. Actually, that never happens. But in this theoretical scenario, right? Obviously, I always win these duels because I'm the best. But in this theoretical scenario where I start shooting an enemy and then he starts shooting me and he kills me, I will have a rough idea a lot of the time of how much damage I did to him, but I won't know for sure. And there are also a lot of times where I will be wrong, where I will be like, oh yeah, I hit at least 5 shots, but I actually only hit 2 because I sucked at aiming. And this is actually interesting because I will transfer this, or I will tell my teammates about this. I will say, oh, there's a guy on B, I hit him for 50 HP or something. And then they will have to live with that information, whether it's right or wrong.
Yep.
And that's very interesting because, as I said, you could end up in a situation which actually happens quite often. Like, not only I do it, but also the people I play with say, "Oh yeah, he's really low. Trust me, you can shoot him with a pistol." And then I shoot him with a pistol, and it's like, "No, okay, he actually had like 75% HP left."
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you made conveyance, or if you made the conveyance in CS a lot better, you would lose that. Because it would be so clear how much damage you did to someone, right?
Yeah.
Because you would know exactly how much you hit. Now, currently in CS, if you don't hit a headshot, you will basically have to guess and then maybe look at the blood splatter on the wall behind him to see how much damage you did.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if you're better at the game, you will be better at guessing, but you can still get it wrong. And so, I guess the point I want to make with this example is that, like, I feel like a lot of designers see conveyance and like feedback as universally good, which isn't true. Sometimes bad feedback is actually interesting because it like leaves you in the dark or whatever. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think actually for me, this is sort of weird. Through my like casual game dev, what do you call it? Like my
endeavors.
Exactly, yeah. Right? Or thinking about game design or whatever in general, right? I have actually moved from like very, very, very conveyance sided to basically the opposite over time.
Yeah.
Like another very good example, in my opinion, is I guess I could bring that up now. It's like UI related stuff, right? We've talked about it a bunch, not on the podcast, but otherwise, right? Like when and when not. Do you say that in English?
Probably not. But it works. It works.
Yeah, when to and when not to show HP bars, for example, on enemies. Right? When is it a good idea? When is it not a good idea? Right? And if you look at modern games, man, we should still come up with a better word than modern because it sounds so negative.
I mean, I said contemporary last episode.
Yeah.
I think that sounds less mean.
Yeah.
But it's more annoying to say.
Yeah. The point is that it's very in fashion or whatever to have a lot of good UI, GUI, whatever you want to call it, right? A lot, right? Way too much, right? And all enemies should always have their HP bars, right? Because you're supposed to always know how much health they have, etc., right? And I think like a good way to compare it ties back to what you said with like you don't know, right? Because I feel like we bring up. I feel like people that watch our show has played Souls, so I think it's a good example to bring up, right? Which is that a lot of people understand that not having a map in Souls is interesting because like you need to navigate the map manually or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's actually, funny enough, the same thing if you don't have HP bars, right? It does the exact same thing. It's just a question if you find that interesting or not in that situation, right? Because what will happen is now you need to manage that information in your head instead.
Yeah.
And obviously it's more interesting in a multiplayer game because in multiplayer games there is actually like it's more common, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's very underappreciated in single player games as well, right? If done correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like in multiplayer games people like recognize that there's a mind game going on. Which they don't recognize at all in single player, which isn't true because like you're like up against AIs, right? But they can like mind game you if they're well made. So yeah, absolutely. I think one very interesting example of this. I think I've brought this up on the podcast before, but I'm not sure. It's Hollow Knight, Silksong, and Hollow Knight 1. The bosses, or well, no enemies have HP bars in that game, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of people say that the enemies should have HP bars, but I have like thought about it and discussed it with people.
Yeah, I think we have discussed it as well.
Yeah, maybe even. And it's like, Yeah, you could add HP bars, but you can't do it without consequence, right? Because the thing is that when you don't have an HP bar on the enemy, you don't know how much health they have left, and so you don't know when you're safe or not, essentially. Yeah. So you end up having to play a lot more safely and passively, and like trying to you're not going for like an all-out attack to finally kill the boss. You're kind of like chipping away at the boss health slowly but surely, because you never know when they're actually gonna die.
Yeah, unless you know, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
If we, in that case, maybe you don't play it over. I mean, some people play like no death runs and stuff in the game, right? In that case, they would know, right? Mm-hmm. But that would also be interesting because that's a skill element in that they know the layout quotation marks, right, of the HP bars, right? Mm-hmm. Layout as in map layout, right? But I'm applying it to that, right? Yeah. They understand there's like 1 or 2 hits left or something, right? And then do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you have the like normal enemies as well, and those you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Their health, right? Because you keep meeting them over and over again.
Yeah, and that's sort of a thing I'm talking about, right? Where it's like somewhere along the line with all these RPG things and stuff, that was lost a bit, right? Because it's like, oh, now they take 15 hits, but it depends on if you have the magic great hammer or not, because then it's 16.5 hits or something. And so to mitigate that, they put health bars on them, right?
Yeah.
But also I just think it's very, like you said in the beginning, right? That it's sort of going towards that thing where like no conveyance is always good, right?
Well, I would say, like in the Hollow Knight example, I would say it's not necessarily good or bad to show the health bar.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more like it depends on what you're going for. Like if the Hollow Knight devs wanted to make a game where the player is more aggressive and more confident, then they should add health bars to the bosses. But they probably don't want to do that, and that's why they don't have health bars on the bosses. Yeah,
no, I think we even argued that when we discussed Hollow Knight at some point, right? That it might even be a better thing to have them visible in that case.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that now, but I think we said that at some point in the podcast.
Yeah.
But I also want to make something else clear, which is even though we're saying, conveyance is overrated, right? So, some feedback stuff is like very important, right? We've talked about in the past with RPGs, for example, which is funny because traditionally, especially Japanese or like JRPGs, right, do this very poorly, which is they don't convey the information of like what your things do, so you can't make a like informed decision.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean, but like
the classic example would be like you have an attack or an ability that says this ability does a lot of damage, or it does mega a lot of damage, or ultra a lot of damage, and it's like that's not enough. Like either you just randomly press like choose abilities and use them and don't think about it, or you look them up in the wiki. Like those are the two options.
But it also depends, right? Because if we're playing like an action game, it's not actually that important to know exactly how much damage my swings do.
Yeah.
As long as I can figure out how many it takes, right, to kill a basic enemy or whatever, right? The problem in this case is that JRPGs are usually like strategy games or whatever you want to call them, right? In my mind, right? Yeah. People are gonna say, it's RPGs, but like, okay, yeah, sure, they're RPGs, but like there has to be a strategy layer or whatever, right? Or something, I don't know, maybe the wrong word, who cares? The point is they're usually turn-based, right? So that it's a numbers game, so you're trying to figure out how to maximize the math, but you're getting no feedback on how to do that at all, right? And then you could argue, I guess, well, if you use it a lot, then you'll see. And I mean, sure, you can make that argument. I don't think that's interesting. I guess.
Yeah, I think the problem also, like, like there's a problem when you're making your builds and stuff as well, because you're planning in advance, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna take this ability because it synergizes well with this other ability. But when the abilities say this does a lot of damage and like this buffs your attack or something, you can't really make an informed decision, because like this buffs your attack value. Does that mean you do double damage or 10% more? And like that's like knowing that is significantly like important information.
And also to be clear, I'm not saying that you need to like show all. Again, this depends very much on game, right? So like for example, let's say a JRPG again, it's not that important to see how much health the enemy has, right? The important thing is to know how much damage you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we're talking more strategic games, let's say strategy RPG, right? Well, then you kind of need to know at least like, maybe you don't need to know how much health they have, but you need to know how much damage they do, right? It's part of the strategy game aspect, right?
Yeah.
You can't just... I mean, you can, and that's a different experience, right? But yeah, I can't argue that doesn't create an interesting experience, I guess. Never mind. But my point is that as you move more towards like tactical strategy stuff, right? Where you're like thinking about moves and stuff, I think you want more things clear, right?
Yeah.
Because at some point that becomes the game, and so you need like it's like sifting through the information that is the game at some point, right? Or something. I don't fucking know. You could argue you can make an interesting game where you don't know anything as well, right? So whatever. I mean, it works.
Yeah, but I think one way to look at it is, you know, especially with RPGs and stuff like that, is do you have to look at the wiki? That's like my what do you want to call it? Like my way to measure it. If it's like a wiki heavy game, then I think they have conveyed too little, in my opinion. Like if my solution is to tab out and search for the enemy and see how much health he has or whatever, then that's like, you could have just put that in the game.
Well, there can still be information that you how should I say this? Like for example, let's say we have a game with random chance, right? Obviously, I agree with that. It's more interesting to play around that. So like, oh, he's got 50% chance to hit, so then I can do this and risk this and blah blah, right? But you could also just not show that, I guess, right?
Like your hit chance, or
I mean the enemy's hit chance.
The enemy's hit chance?
Yeah, I mean,
are there a lot of games that do that?
Show the enemy's hit chance?
Yeah.
Well, in Fire Emblem you can figure
that's
it
true.
out.
But I don't think like XCOM and stuff like that does that.
Yeah, maybe that's why I don't like XCOM.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so the point is not that... I guess we've talked basically about lots of things that should have it now, so let's move back to maybe discuss, like, because I just wanted to clarify, like, obviously you need to convey stuff, right? But I feel like a lot of the games that are coming out now is not exploring the space of like unknown and fuzziness enough, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, like when it comes to like feedback and information specifically. Yeah.
Especially action related or like real time stuff, because the like some things is very clear to a lot of games. Like for example, most action games don't show their hitboxes, right? Or like their weapon hitboxes. And that it would, like, the conveyance would be 10 times better if they showed it, right? But it's just, it doesn't, like, it sort of ruins the experience a bit, right?
Yeah.
And people recognize that, so they don't, I guess, right?
I mean, I 100% agree with you, but aren't like designers / developers moving away from that and like more and more doing like mesh hitboxes and stuff like that? Like for bad games in general, I think.
What do you mean with mesh hitboxes?
Like
I thought
where the
all
hitboxes
were meshes.
Yeah, but like where it like actually matches the mesh of the character completely. Like instead of having like a big, what's it called, like a big box that is your sword, they have like the actual model sword as a hitbox.
Oh, maybe I don't know what modern, like I'm thinking of the good ones, you know, like
yeah. Well, I'm thinking of the bad ones.
Yeah, okay. No, I think I would guess they're doing even more silly stuff. Where
they're probably
it's not even hitboxing, it's like MMO, you know, distance based or something, right?
Yeah, suck to target stuff. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Which feels awful. So
yeah. Yeah, I think one interesting thing with hitboxes, it was I had a discussion about shmups with a person who like basically doesn't play games at all.
Shmups? Not me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you were the person that basically doesn't play games. No, just kidding.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so I was like showing shmup gameplay, and the person was like, "Oh, but the like the spaceship is clearly hitting the bullets. Why aren't you dying or whatever?" And like I had always accepted the fact that the hitbox is way smaller than the ship is, because like for those of you that don't play like bullet hell shmups, usually the hitbox is way smaller than the actual like ship or character or whatever. And I sort of realized when I discussed with this person why that is. And I think I brought this up before in the podcast, but it's like you want the small hitbox because you want to be able to have a lot of bullets on the screen, right? Because it's a bullet hell.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to dodge a bunch of bullets. And if the bigger your hitbox is, the fewer bullets you can actually have on screen, because the faster it becomes literally impossible to dodge.
Yeah.
And so you need a small hitbox in a bullet hell game in general. But then the problem with that is that a small hitbox is very hard to see, especially when there's like a bunch of bullets covering the screen. And so if you have like this tiny little circle or whatever that like shows your character, then you're very easily gonna like lose track of it.
Yeah. It also goes for the bullets, by the way. I want to point that out. That's true. Like in some games there is very tiny bullets, and they are awful because you can't see them, right? Or like you lose track of them.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, but I sort of realized that, because I'd never thought about why the hitbox was way smaller than the actual ship was in bullet hells. And it's because, like, it makes so much sense now when I had this discussion with this person, because I realized that, okay, but if you have this massive ship, or a ship that is way bigger than your hitbox, then you have something that you as a player can easily see and easily follow, and like easily find on the screen.
Yep.
But then you also have like the small hitbox, and so you kind of, how do I say this? Like a lot of game designers, they like, what do you say? They really like want WYSIWYG to be true, like what you see is what you get, right? So they say, oh, the hitboxes should match or whatever. But the problem with that is that if we accept that everything should be WYSIWYG, then we can't actually have a bullet hell, right? Yeah. That's sort of my point. And so you need to have bad conveyance, because you need to have the tiny hitbox, but you also need to have a big ship that you can see. So like, ironically enough, having bad conveyance, like having the hitbox not match the ship size, actually makes the game, like the conveyance better, because it's easier to see where you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Although a lot of the modern bullet hell shmups do show the hitbox as well, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's even better conveyance, right?
Yeah, which I don't necessarily see. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't. I feel like listening to discussions, it's sort of universally accepted as a good thing, which I don't think is true, right? it goes back to what we said earlier, right? That the fussiness of the conveyance can be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously people played them fine without knowing exactly where the hitbox was conveyance-wise, right?
Yeah.
And in a game like that, you die a lot anyway, so you get a lot of feedback quickly, so you learn where the hitbox is, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not saying you can't add a hitbox, I'm just saying it doesn't matter that much to me.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. Also, like, I feel like maybe this is like my brain being weird, but I'm also thinking, since and this applies to other games as well, right? For example, this ties in a bit to what we talked about when we talked about realism, right? Where we talked about that games can't be realistic; they need to have weird hitboxes because otherwise they don't make sense, right? To sell the fantasy. So in my mind, it's like you're saying, yeah, well, they're touching the bullets, but it's like, well, maybe like if you think about it, they're like doing a, they're like tilting or yeah, right? And that's sort of the thing, right? It's the same with the hitboxes, like the big swords, right? Because you can't make it accurate because it will feel bad, right? Because there is more. The point is, like in the bullet hell game, there is actually, if it was a real person dodging the bullets, there would be more nuance, right? They could tilt their, right? If it's a ship, they need to tilt the ship or whatever, right? But you get what I'm saying, right? There's so much nuance in reality that's not in the game, and you can sort of convey that in a bit by making the mechanics more lenient. And again, going back to the Souls, right? It's the same with Souls, where it's like, look, your sword is like twice as big as it looks, right? Because otherwise it feels like ass to use.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
But I feel like I think that like designers in general are more in favor of like cheating, quote unquote, in the player's favor than cheating against them. Like, obviously cheating is not the right word, but you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they're fine with giving the player sword a too large hitbox, but they're not fine with giving the enemy sword a hitbox that's too large.
That is
which
true.
I mean it's not necessarily wrong, right?
No, that only depends on how they balance it later, right? Because if it's like, if the enemies are very weak and they have a lot of them, then it's fine, right? Or whatever. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you said with the bullets, right? The bullets are weak. They have a tiny hitbox. You can have more of them on the screen, right?
Yeah.
That solves the issue. So then you get a more epic bullet hell, right? Yeah. Whereas if you have bigger hitboxes on the bullets and the player, then you can't have as many, so then it's harder in another way, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same with this, right?
Yeah, there was one thing in relation to CS that I forgot to bring up, which I wanted to bring up, if you will allow me, which is that maybe we mentioned it a little bit, but conveyance is not like independent of the player skill level, right?
Yeah.
So if we go back to my CS example, right, I very briefly mentioned it, but I wanted to like make it extra clear because I think this is important, which is that like yes, the bullet feedback in CS is really bad, and like the shooting feedback in CS is really bad, and when you're new to the game, you have no clue whether like you have the movement aim penalty or not, right? But when you're good at the game, you notice like very, very what's the word? Like very subtle cues which tell you whether or not you're actually moving and stuff like that, or sorry, whether you actually have the movement penalty or not, right?
Yep.
And so one famous thing that I always like to bring up when I talk about CS is counter strafing, right? So like one thing people who are good at CS do is counter strafing, and basically what that means is that if you're going to the left, if you're pressing the A button and you let go, there's like a small moment of like inertia where you're still moving a little bit and like slowing down and until you finally stop. And during that time, you are inaccurate. Like you still have the movement inaccuracy. Mm-hmm. I do believe it like decreases a little bit as you become slower. I'm not actually 100% sure about that. But anyways, the thing that's interesting about this is that a lot of new players don't realize this. They think that they are static, like the moment they let go of the A button, whatever. Like the moment they let go of the A button, they think that they will be 100% accurate. And then when they're not, they're like, what the fuck is happening? Why are my shots not hitting anywhere? Mm-hmm. And what usually happens with new players is that they compensate with this by crouching. Because crouching makes you slower, which makes you stop faster, which makes you more accurate faster, right? So when they stop moving, new players will usually crouch like always. They will basically like build a habit of always crouching when they shoot, which is bad. What you actually want to do, like sometimes it's good, right? But a lot of times it's also good to be standing because you're moving faster and you can move faster after stopping and stuff like that, and you become less predictable and you don't like fuck up with your own aim by like lowering yourself and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so what good players do is they counter strafe, which is essentially pressing the opposite button when you stop to like cancel out the inertia. And my point with this is that a new player does not understand anything of what I just said about CS. But a better player will understand all of that. And my point is that CS does actually convey these things.
Yep.
It just conveys it to players who know the game, right? It's like the conveyance is not clear enough for a new player, but it is clear enough for an experienced player.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a bit fuzzy because, I mean, I agree with that. There is a, what do you call it, like a spectrum of conveyance, right? Yeah. But it's also like you said with the bullet hell thing, right? If you play a bullet hell for 1,000 hours, obviously it's obvious where the hitbox is on the player ship, right? Like, so you could argue, well, the conveyance is clear, it's like there, right? But that's like very subtle in how like you have like figured it out, I guess, right? So I don't know if I would call that good conveyance still, right? It's just that there are cues in the game, is sort of what you're saying, that helps you, I guess. But then again, like your brain will find cues even if there isn't cues, I feel like, right?
I think maybe what I'm saying more is that conveyance matters less as you get better at the game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Obviously.
I think that's
the entire thing, right? If we talk about like card games, for example, right? We've discussed this in the past, right? Where like a lot of computerized card games, they'll show you like your deck, right? And we've like talked about, again, not on the podcast, about is this like interest, like is this skill, like that's the skill, if you can just check your deck, then the skill of checking your deck is lost, right?
Yeah.
And is that interesting or not, right? And like you said, if you get good enough, then that will not matter, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously you know what the next card is, right? Or whatever. Or I mean, it depends on the game, but you get what I'm saying. If it's a game where you can like know what cards you have or whatever, right? Then you'll know because you've played a lot.
Yeah. But maybe to like make this a bit more clear for the viewers. So the game we were discussing was Dominion, and Dominion is like a famous board game, card game in real life.
Yeah.
And it's like a PvP deck builder or whatever. And the thing is that you have a bunch of decks. So you have your draw pile, you have your discard pile, you have the opponent's draw pile and the opponent's discard pile and stuff like that. And in the game, you can I think it's an option that you can either disable or enable, but I think it's enabled by default. Like in the video game version of Dominion, you can check your draw pile and discard pile at all times, so you always know whether something is in the draw pile or discard pile or like where it is, for example. Like, oh, am I gonna be able to draw this card next turn? No, because it's in my discard pile or whatever. And as you said, Edward, we discussed this, that like for an experienced player, they're probably always gonna know where all of their cards and all of the opponent's cards are.
Yeah.
And so having that option of like looking in your draw pile or discard pile is not gonna be like very consequential actually, because they already know, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm still not sure. I think it's like, I still think it's a skill that should be tested probably, but
yeah.
But it's not doing the thing.
Like, it's not nearly as important as it is for a new player.
Yeah.
For a new player, that's like very important information.
I think that the difference between the CS example is that the information, like for if you're taking a new player and a good player, the new player is gonna perform way better in the computer version. But if we're taking two good players, it's not gonna make a difference. That's what you're saying, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Counter-Strike, it matters still at a high level because you don't know if you hit all the shots or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, a better player is gonna know more for sure.
Yeah, but not 100%
and they're probably also gonna hit their shots more.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, as you go up, And I just wanna like point something out about like in relation to Counter-Strike, right? Which is, well, first of all, I think conveyance is, we've already said that, right? But it's like more accepted that it's not as important in multiplayer games, because, well, for a lot of reasons, right? One is that it's recognized as interesting in multiplayer games because it brings that nuance, like you said, oh, how much health did that person have, whatever, right? But I also think that a lot of designers are less worried because they know the community will solve it or whatever. Like, they'll tell each other how to play. So conveyance is not as important. But I think there is actually another reason, and that is that a lot of the modern designs of games are actually, not from modern times, right?
Yeah, like modern multiplayer
like Counter-Strike and Dota, for example. It's like old mods, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, obviously the conveyance is bad because they're mods, right? That's sort of like, if you make a mod, you can't do everything you want, right? With the engine and stuff. So then the conveyance is bad. And like, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say MOBAs, right? MOBAs is like, I mentioned Dota, MOBAs in general, right? A lot of developers have tried to make MOBAs that have, are more intuitive or whatever, but people still only play, like, I mean, there are some others, I guess, but Dota and League of Legends is still the ones that people play, right?
Yeah.
And they have god-awful conveyance, right? It's completely, like, if you, I don't know if you played enough you played League of Legends back in the day, right? A bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know if you got to the point where you tried to introduce the game to someone that didn't play it.
No.
Because I played a lot of Dota back in the day, right? And it was always so funny to play with, people that don't play MOBAs. Because you end up in this very strange situation where you're like a perfect example. Let's say you're like pushing ahead and you're like, yeah, we're gonna kill this. Like, we're having an advantage like right now, right? This is gonna be really hard to explain, but keep in mind, like, there's a lot of stuff going on in a MOBA, right? And your brain is like always like considering all these things. So it's like, oh, we're pushing up the lane. Let's say the first tower is destroyed. We're trying to get this guy. Oh, we kill one guy, and then we're chasing the other guy. And then you, right, as the player that had played more, you go like, okay, no, let's back up, right? We can't keep going. Because some reason, right? You can't even tell why, right? You just know, like, no, we can't, like, your brain has done some weird math on, like, no, like, the tower is gonna do too much damage, and there might be another hero in the forest to the right, or right? It's doing all these calculations, right?
Yeah.
Without you even consciously thinking about it. So you're like, no, okay, let's back up. And the new guy will go, no, we can get him. And they'll keep going, and they'll die. And then they'll go, wait, how did I die? Right? We were winning. What happened? It's like, well, we shouldn't have gone there. There was like this, and they're like confused, right? because the game is not, you know, there is really no conveyance. It's all like intuition, right?
Yeah.
There is a shit ton of intuition in those games, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. It's one
and
of the
I feel
things.
like that's actually a really fun example because if you look at something like League of Legends, right? I think we've discussed this before on the podcast as well.
Yeah, they try to solve it a bit.
Yeah, we've discussed this, like they have like these movement abilities that you like everyone can use. Like you can pick one before the game or something. I don't exactly remember.
Yeah.
And it's like I think those are really lame because the reason that they are there is to like get the player out of overextending, right? But the thing is that you don't want the player to be able to get out of overextending, because if they've overextended, they should be killed for it, or almost killed at least. Or if they're really good, maybe they can escape. But like a new player just like stumbling into the enemy base or whatever, overextending way too much, they should die for it. They should not be able to like get away with their like epic mobility ability or whatever.
Yeah. And like comparing that to like Dota is really awful with this, because they're like it's really hard to like, if you don't play a lot of Dota to get a feel for it, but it's like we can talk like a couple of centimeters on the screen too much forward and like you're dead or not, right? I mean it's like, I mean obviously it's the same in League of Legends, but my point is like, no, they have this hero with this stun, and if you're standing like so little wrong, like so little wrong, right? Or whatever, you get what I'm saying? No, then you're just gonna die, right? You can't do anything about it. It's like, I am in the wrong spot, I am dead, and you're like, you just accept it, like you can't, and it's very unintuitive and frustrating, I guess, to new players. But it's really interesting in my opinion. I think more games should explore that. And not to do the dumb stuff that modern Dota is doing. Yeah. I guess that's sort of tangential a bit to this, but it's sort of related, right? I mean, it's the
but I feel like we're sort of entering territory of like, games shouldn't be fair, which we often talk about.
I mean,
but I feel like that's like very connected to conveyance, because conveying more makes your game more quote unquote fair, right? Better conveyance will make the player perceive the game as more fair.
That is actually, I think, now that you say that, I think that is actually one of the reasons why it's pursued so much, right? Because the designers are scared of players calling their games unfair.
Yeah.
And to mitigate that, you convey more information, right?
Yeah.
Or you make the game really easy.
Yeah, I think actually, I just realized a really good example of this is actually once again in CS. Oh, I love bringing CS up. But one thing that I've seen a lot of people, for some reason, I don't know why, complain about with CS is the fact that you shoot from the head instead of from the weapon. So what they'll say is like, yeah.
The camera is placed in the head?
Yeah, so like what a lot of modern shooters do is that like your weapon is like a physical object in the world, and when you shoot from your weapon. But CS doesn't do that. Yeah,
they do that. Is that why all games feel like ass?
Yes, it is actually. Okay. And the worst part is, if you've played any like more quote-unquote realistic shooters recently, they do this thing where like if you go too close to the wall, you bring your weapon up. No, you bring your weapon up. Like your character brings their weapon up and you can't shoot. Have you played any games to do that? Like I think Tarkov even does that. I'm not sure though.
No, I don't think I've done that. I played that.
But a lot of them do. And I absolutely hate that. But the reason for that is because like the weapon is a physical thing, and so if you're standing too close to the wall, like it can look like you're going to hit someone, but when you shoot, you actually hit the wall, right? So that's why they like make you raise your weapon, because like to not make you shoot, like to not make the crosshair not coincide with the weapon, right? If that makes sense.
Okay. Nice.
And it feels absolutely terrible. But anyways, so going back to CS, or did you?
No, I was just thinking like I think Overwatch does it the correct way.
How does Overwatch do it?
I think they have a camera attached thingy, like arms that doesn't exist to the camera. You like CS, right?
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure. I'm just thinking because like Battlefield and stuff, right? They feel really bad and they do that.
Yeah, and I think those are like shooting from the weapon
because
nowadays.
old Call of Duty didn't do that, right? That's why old Call of Duty feels nice.
Mm-hmm.
And new Call of Duty feels really bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But anyways, going back to CS. So I have heard a lot of people complain about the fact that like if you're standing behind cover in CS and the only thing visible is your player's head, like you shouldn't be able to shoot someone because you can't shoot from your head. It doesn't make any sense or whatever. And this is another like conveyance fairness thing, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, like it doesn't make sense if you look at it from like a real life perspective, sure. Like you can't shoot from your eyes, you shoot from your weapon, right? So you should like in real life you should step out of cover and shoot with your weapon or whatever. But the thing is that like that's just bad conveyance. That's not bad design. Sort of going back to the original thesis.
Well, it's also like how would you solve it?
Yeah, well, they want to solve it by like making you shoot from the weapon, which doesn't work at all, as we just discussed.
Well, you can do it in one way, I guess, which is gonna feel really fucking weird, which is to put the camera at the weapon, right?
That's true.
So you're short, yeah. Right? I mean that would work as well, but that would feel even more weird, I think.
Yeah. And even well, yeah, no, because I'm not actually sure about the terminology because a lot of people seem to use it for different things. But some people do call this head glitching, which I wouldn't agree with, because head glitching is when you literally can't see the head. You can't see the guy who's shooting you at all, which I don't even think is necessarily a problem. Like, it's a bit of a problem, conveyance-wise, but it's like, once you're experienced at the game, you know that that's a head glitch spot. And so it doesn't matter as much as for a new player.
Also, it's like I get that it's the camera is like placed at the head, but it's also like a little bit more complicated than that, right? Because it's like, I mean, I guess, like, does the actual hit scan go from the head?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I've never thought about
it. I think the problem with not doing it that way is that your crosshair will not be accurate.
Yeah.
Which is why CS does it that way.
Yeah.
But when you play like some of these modern realistic quote-unquote shooters, you will feel that happen. You will like aim at someone. Yeah, you'll like stand at a corner of a wall and shoot, and you'll actually hit the wall because like your crosshair is not like actually accurate.
Yeah.
Because your crosshair is from your head's perspective, but your weapon is from your weapon's perspective.
Yeah.
That was very deep.
Yeah, I guess it's not there is no projectile weapons in CS, but I guess it's not an issue with projectile weapons because it makes sense that you hit a wall with a projectile.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Like, because you still have the same problem where like your crosshair will show that you will hit, but then you actually hit the wall, even with projectiles.
Maybe.
Because a lot of these
like
not as realistic shooters.
An issue though, because it's still like a big thing that's fired, right? Like with a hit scan, it's very serious because the hit scan is actually, like it's like in your mind, it's like the hit scan is gonna go where you click, right? But then, like a slow projectile doesn't necessarily do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like it goes in the direction you clicked. It doesn't go where you clicked, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's completely solved by that. I'm just saying it's less of an issue there.
Yeah, the problem is like when your crosshair doesn't actually show what you're going to hit, or like it shows that you're not going to hit the wall, but then you do. Like that's sort of the problem.
Well,
I have with that.
Well, you can't know if you're going to hit anyways because it's going to travel, right?
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is that, like, if you're standing at a corner, like very close to a corner, and you like look past the corner, like you've stepped out a bit, and you look at a point somewhere that's beyond the corner.
Yeah.
And you shoot. Sometimes in these kinds of games that do these things, you will actually hit the corner.
Yeah, like for sure. But I'm saying it's not as big of an issue as with the hit scan stuff, because I'm assuming what CS does is it does the hit scan from the head, but the muzzle flash is from the gun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so the visuals are still from the gun, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But if you fire a projectile from the head, that's gonna look really weird.
Yeah.
So you have to fire it from the gun.
Well, that's sort of what people are arguing with CS. They're saying that it's bad that the hit scan is coming from the head.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, right? That the scan comes from the head. Like, it's the visuals that matter, right? I think. Mm-hmm. Even not that much, actually, but like...
Well, the problem with that... The people that say this say that the problem with that is that the visuals end up not like being bad, because you can see just someone's head and they can still shoot you.
Yeah, but I don't care.
Yeah, of course.
There is also like what you see is not what they are seeing, because you're playing on a network thing and blah blah blah, right? There's so many layers to that, so that's the dumb argument, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Now, we have discussed mostly, what do you call it, feedback conveyance so far.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to bring it into structural conveyance.
Oof,
do you agree, Edward?
Yeah, sure. Let's go more single player as well, because we talked a lot about multiplayer.
Yes. I think this is where structural conveyance becomes more relevant, because multiplayer games don't tend to have structural conveyance. They tend to just throw you into a match and let you figure it out, or maybe have a tutorial. So yeah. Now, I want to start by talking about puzzle games, because I am a fan of puzzle games. The Witness, Steven Sausage Roll, stuff like that. They are fantastic games. They're absolutely fantastic. They're great. I love them. But I have noticed that in recent years, I've kind of grown a little bit tired of most puzzle games. Like, there are still a few ones that are good, but most of the time when I play a puzzle game nowadays, I get kind of bored kind of quickly. And I have realized that the reason for that is that puzzle game designers are way too obsessed with conveyance and not obsessed enough with gameplay, right? Mm-hmm. I think puzzle designers are the ones that should hear this the most, that like good conveyance is not good design, or bad conveyance is not bad design. And I think the reason that puzzle game designers are so focused on conveyance is because they're very influenced by people like Jonathan Blow and like Steven Sausage Roll, Steven Lavelle, stuff like that.
Again, though, I wanna I feel like, even though I haven't heard Steven talk about this stuff, but like Jonathan Blow talks about this a lot, I still feel like he doesn't apply it in the way that he speaks about it. If that makes sense, right?
Well, no, I was actually gonna say something very different.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say that the reason that something like The Witness and Steven Sausage Roll works is that they are interesting games.
Yeah.
The problem with a lot of puzzle games, I find, is that they are way too focused on conveyance, like conveying the game well. Like, they're so focused on that they forget to actually make an interesting game.
Yeah, they're focusing on how to teach you the mechanics more than the mechanics themselves.
And so, but I think one... go ahead.
No, I was gonna just say that I feel like even though Jonathan Blow talks about conveyance a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like if you actually look at what he's doing, he's actually... he is creating... I mean... I don't want to put words in his mouth or whatever you say, right? But to me, it seems like the way he designs, we've talked about this before, is he finds something that he finds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then he builds a game around that. That's step 2. And then step 3 is how do I convey that in a good way?
Yeah.
Right? And so the conveyance is just basically the final thing to make it more approachable. And the conveyance is very clear in puzzle games, right? Like how to apply conveyance is very clear in puzzle games. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of like, I don't know what to call it, like serious designers in quotation marks gravitate towards puzzle games, because they have this very clear, you know, you have a mechanic and then you convey the mechanic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whereas it's more fuzzy, like as a designer, I mean, it's less clear if, what am I trying to say? Like if you make a beat 'em up or something, and you put like 5 bad guys on the level, it's not clear if that's an interesting level or not, actually, right? It's very hard to judge that, but with a puzzle game it's way easier. I think that's why people that are into design does gravitate a bit towards that.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the like not the point I want to make, but like the problem that I want to point out,
okay.
because I feel like what ends up happening is that a lot of puzzle games become this like conveyance circle jerk thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like I remember speaking about this when I talked about OOO, the puzzle game that released last year. Like I did end up enjoying it towards the end, because it became a bit better towards the end and like a bit more interesting and stuff like that. But in the beginning of the game, it was very much like the game was constantly like telling you like, oh, look how cleverly this game is designed. Haha, wow, you noticed, huh? This is clever, right? This is clever, right? Right? The designer is clever here. Ooh, right? And it sort of felt, it felt more of like the person who made that game wanted to make a game that showcased how clever of a designer he was, rather than an actually interesting game, right? And I feel like a lot of puzzle games end up going down that route, where it's like they focus so much on conveyance because they want to be super clever and like teach the player weird stuff in an interesting way or whatever.
Isn't it like sort of the aha moment thing a bit?
Yeah, exactly. It's like aha moment farming a bit, right?
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. It's like a lot of these puzzle games are aha moment farming, and it's like, yeah, but it is like, yeah, an aha moment is interesting, but like it's less interesting if the game is it's less interesting if the game is not interesting, whereas it's more interesting if the game is also interesting.
Yeah,
I said that in a really weird way, but like that's sort of why I've been gravitating towards like especially action games in recent years, because they are way more fussy, and like the actual depth in the game is more hidden, and like you have to actually find it. Whereas puzzle games, they're like very, I guess infantilizing, as we said in the beginning of the video, is a good way to put it. It's like, I feel like when I'm playing puzzle games, the designers are a lot of times trying to, yeah, basically what I said before. They're trying to show off how good of a designer they are.
I mean, I think
they aren't actually trying to be interesting.
I think you're a bit too mean to puzzle games, because
maybe. Like there are still good puzzle games.
Yeah,
and like even OO, which I've complained about, is a good game.
I mean,
but like
I think there are more good puzzle games than good action games, for example, right?
That's absolutely true. Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
I mean, it's like, I think it's just more obvious when it's bad. I guess what I'm saying, you could technically accidentally make a good action game, I guess, but it's hard to do that with puzzle games. So it's more clear that like the designer is, you know, like you said, focusing on aha too much or whatever, right? Whereas with action, like, yeah,
like to be clear, I think this is the case with bad puzzle games.
Yeah,
good puzzle games generally still have good conveyance, but they are also interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but like, it's sort of like, this is sort of the point I'm trying to clarify, I guess, that I'm not really sure how I feel about, because like I'm not sure what Jonathan Blow wants is conveyance. I don't know why I focus so much on him, but I am right now. Because, like, what was that game called? The one where you, like, grow a flower or something. What was it called? Like
Starseed Pilgrim?
Yeah. Would you say that game has good conveyance?
That's a good question.
Right? And it's like, that is exactly the kind of thing he wants, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess that game does kind of had bad conveyance. Like, not in a bad way, because it's like it forces you to explore the mechanics on your own.
Yeah. I guess you could argue it has good conveyance because you get feedback on it. I don't know. But do you get feedback on it? Like, you don't know what the feedback means.
Not a lot.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the sort of thing I mean with Jonathan Blow as well, where it's like, he is really good at giving you feedback, but is it good feedback? You don't know. Like, you do a puzzle, and then it's like, good, you did it right. And then you do the next one, and it's like, that doesn't work. Wait, what do you mean? You just told me that works. But it's like, well, no, you only figure out half of the rule now, right?
Yeah.
And like, that's way more interesting, I feel like. Like, where it's like, it's giving you feedback, but it's not necessarily telling you if it's good or bad feedback.
Yeah.
You have to sift through the feedback, which is still, I still feel like maybe that still is conveyance, right? But in a good way. I don't know. This is fuzzy.
Yeah, I think maybe one thing to consider is that the puzzle games where the puzzle games that are good are more difficult. Like, maybe it's that simple.
Yeah.
That, like, the fact that, like, an easy game with good conveyance will feel like mean to the player or whatever, right? It's like insulting the intelligence of the player, right? Because it's like, yeah, okay, I realize that it's not that deep, but the game is like making a very big deal out of it.
And like, not putting any names on games here, right? But I remember we played that one game where, like, it was a puzzle game, right? And the puzzles were like it was so annoying because you had to like walk back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was like it was not good, right? But that had good conveyance.
Yeah, true.
So
and now our audience is gonna be super mad because we won't reveal the game.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on to
yes.
What do we want to touch next?
Well, we could actually keep talking about difficulty a bit.
Sure.
Because I wanted to bring up difficulty through another lens. And this also goes for, this is not only for like puzzle games, this is for all kinds of games. Which is that I think people severely underrate difficulty as conveyance.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is that an easy game won't tell you when you're playing it wrong, right? You will just coast through the easy game no matter what you do. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can ignore all of the mechanics. You can use all of them. It doesn't matter because you're gonna just beat the game no matter what because it's easy. But a hard game, when you play the wrong way, the hard game will beat your ass. You will die. You will fall into pits. You will get burned or whatever. And that's sort of my point. Making the game difficult will convey the intended gameplay more clearly. If that makes sense.
I would say yes and no. So I think, like, obviously, I think that is a solution that is underexplored. I mean, it's not actually because like most old games did it this way. But I'm not sure you actually necessarily get good conveyance. Because you could throw a scenario that's really hard at someone and the conveyance could be absolutely awful, right? But they're gonna learn it way faster because it's hard.
Yeah, and that's sort of my point. I guess you could argue that difficulty isn't conveyance, but like, my point is that putting the player in a difficult scenario will teach them more about the game than any tutorial could.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you are, in effect, conveying the mechanics to the player by putting them in a difficult scenario.
Yeah, I mean they're learning them faster, but not necessarily
Yeah.
getting them conveyed. Because you can see this very clearly with a lot of hard games, because people, I mean, not even hard games, like mildly challenging games, right?
Yeah.
People get very angry, right? Because they don't, whatever, like, oh, it's unfair, oh, this makes no sense, blah blah, whatever, right? Whatever game it is, you'll see it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, I would argue, like a failure of conveyance, in quotation marks, right? But my point is that I don't think that's a useful metric at all, right? Because it's like,
but is that really true,
the player, the conveyance. I mean, yeah, I think so, because like it's not conveyed clearly enough to where the person understands why they're losing. But that's a skill issue, right?
But the problem with that is that if you were...
Yeah, then the game would be terrible if you fix that, right? And that's the point of this video.
Yeah, because the thing is that, like... well, I mean, we've talked about this before a lot. Like, if you understand what you are doing wrong, it sort of means that you understand the game. And that means that the game isn't very deep, right? Like if you're new to the game, right?
Yeah.
Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
I mean, you could argue that you think that you understand as well, right?
Yeah, but what I mean is that you need to have this moment where you have no clue why you died, like where the game felt complete bullshit. Because if you don't, then the game isn't deep.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like ties into the entire lesson of this episode, which is that, well, if you go full conveyance, then you end up with a game that doesn't have any depth. Because you can't have depth without making it unclear what you're supposed to do. Or you need to pad it, right, a lot, to where it's drip feeded, right? Yeah. So you'll get there eventually, but you'll have to start out with way simpler scenarios that doesn't have all the depth, which is not interesting at all. We talked about this before. Actually, we haven't talked about it. We will touch on this episode as well, right? Because it's tied to conveyance, right? With like how you split it up, right?
Yeah.
There was one more thing. But what was I saying? Oh no, I forgot it. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
Yeah, well, I think I was done speaking. But yeah. I guess going back to... Yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to say, yeah, so like... I think that's sort of the point, right? That if we take conveyance too far, then we don't... either we stretch it or it's not interesting. And... again, if you don't do... Like... So, like, if we talk about arcade games, for example, right? I think arcade games are really good. They're really well designed. But they actually also suffer from this. We've talked about this before, like shmups, and like you talked about Final Fight, right? Where like, okay, the first level is not that nice to play every time, right? It's not that complicated, right? It's too simple.
Yeah, it's too easy.
Yeah. And the reason for that is for better conveyance, right? And that's a problem, right? Because then the game actually gets worse because it's trying to convey how to play it more than to actually make a good game. It's sort of like saying you would make our favorite analogy, a piece of piano music, right? That like the first half of the piece is trying to convey how to play the piece, right?
Oh, you mean like it's doing the different parts and then in the end it brings them all together?
Yeah, or something, right?
Yeah.
And that in that case it doesn't make sense at all, right? And I mean, I understand that games, obviously, like they're always, not always, but a lot of the time bringing in new stuff, right? Actually, that's not even true. That's so funny as well, because like if you look at what's popular, it's actually things like the only games that are actually, I mean, they'll do gimmicky shit like Souls-likes, for example. there is a reason why all games coming out are Souls-like these days, and it's because the conveyance, like, there is an established base thanks to the hate towards Demon Souls when it came out, right? Yeah. Oh, this is unintuitive, blah blah blah, right? And then people learned, and now there's like an established skill set. We've talked about this. I don't remember which episode, but we talked about it before, right? Where like there's like a baseline of a skill set.
They don't need to convey the mechanics because everyone already knows how Souls-like combat works.
It's the same with shooters, right? Everyone like they just assume that everyone knows how to play a shooter because like Fortnite and Call of Duty is like insanely popular, right? So they don't need to convey those mechanics, right? And so those games actually just becomes 10 times better just because of that, right? Because they don't need to convey that. And that's sort of the point, right? That if you focus too much on that, then you can't really do anything interesting, I guess.
Yeah. I guess that leads us actually into the topic of tutorialization.
Yeah.
I think now is a good time to bring it up. And this is something, this is a recurring thing we complain about on the podcast because it's always terrible. And like I have a new horror story, if you want to call it that, regarding tutorialization. So I was playing the new Warhammer Mechanicus 2 game, which is the sequel to Warhammer Mechanicus 1. Now I didn't enjoy Mechanicus 1 a lot. I did play it. It was way too. First of all, it was way too easy, but it was also way too like RPG focused or whatever. Like it wasn't tactical enough for me.
Yeah.
And I was reading some reviews on the second game. I wasn't planning to play it, but I was reading some reviews, and people were saying like, "Oh, this is like the first game, but with the RPG elements removed, and it's way harder." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a large improvement." So I'm gonna play the second one. Now, I haven't played the second one that much, so I can't really say if it's a good or a bad game yet. But what I can say about the game is that the tutorialization in that game is absolutely atrocious, because there's like 2 hours of like slowly drip feeding mechanics. Actually, it's more than 2 hours, because I don't think I've actually unlocked all of the mechanics yet, and I've played for like 4 hours. But anyways, it's like... First of all, there's like a very long tutorial which like only introduces some of the battle mechanics, and then it's like there's this like meta layer, and it's like sort of introducing some of the mechanics but not all of them, and then there's like this strategy map where you have like resources and stuff, and it like slowly introduces stuff there as well, and it's like, I just want to play the game, man. I don't want to sit through this like slow drip feeding of mechanics. I want access to all of the mechanics now, and if I struggle, I will struggle. I want to actually play the game. I don't have time to sit through this bullshit. And yeah, that summarizes my views on tutorializations. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, put the tutorial in the menu.
Yes, to be clear, there is a big difference between tutorial and tutorialization.
Yeah.
Tutorials aren't necessarily bad. There are bad tutorials
actually,
out there, but there
can
are
I
also
say
good
something
tutorials.
that like,
yes,
you can tell me no, you're wrong, but this is half off topic, but it's related, okay? And it's this thing, right, with tutorials, that people say like they apply this like mentality of like learning things, right, where, oh, you should learn as you do, blah blah blah, right? Do not put up walls of put up walls of text, right? Don't like, you need to make them use the mechanic or whatever. And that's the dumbest shit ever, in my opinion. I might have said it differently in the past, but that's my opinion right now, because look, just put a tutorial in the menu, and when I need to figure out how this shit works, I click on that, and then I can read whatever your tutorial is, right? When I need to know what the mechanics do, if your game has a lot of complicated mechanics that you need to explain, don't make these, like you said, this stupid drip feeding tutorial bullshit. Just give me a wall of text. I can read that wall of text, and now I know how the mechanic works when I need it, right? or put it in a menu or something, right? But it's so like, no, you shouldn't do that because the players will just click it away. Well, then they will lose, right?
Yeah, because they want to play the game.
Yeah.
It's like...
let them play the game, let them lose, and then they can go like, maybe I should figure out how this mechanic work. Yeah. And if they don't, well, yeah, I guess make a simpler game if you care about that person, right? Mm-hmm. If not, then you clearly want to make the game for someone that knows. Like we've talked about this in the past. It's Crusader Kings, right? That does the insane thing. Like, what do you mean? Like you can just click on like any tooltip and get like information about stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's like really super useful in that kind of game. It's like, what does this do? Click, and then it's like, what does that thing in that thing do? Click, and then what does this in this do? Click. Right? That's what you want. You want just. I mean, in action games, it's not as applicable, right? It's more of a strategy game, but still, like, if you have a complicated mechanic in an action game, don't try to show me how the thing works. Just fucking write a text thing in a tutorial, right? If it's
yeah, I think in general, when you look at like strategy games and RPGs and stuff like that, you like a lot of them have tutorials because they are so complicated. Yeah. But the thing is that the ones that are actually good, like that actually have good UI that like explain how things work, where like you can look at the stats and actually calculate something with them, those don't need a tutorial because you kind of learn, like when you're first starting out, you have no clue what all the numbers do. But then when you're curious, you can just look at what the numbers do. Like you can hover over them and get a tooltip.
Yeah.
So you don't need a tutorial.
Yes, that is also true. Yeah. And I mean, sure, like sometimes it's like it's easier to force the player to do the thing than to like let's say, I don't know, let's do some dumb shit. Like let's say it's a parry or something, right? It's better to like, okay, do a parry now, right? So the player gets like, wait, what am I supposed to like? Okay, I should click it like this, right, or whatever. It's like so it gives you some feedback on like, again, in a tutorial, not in the game, right?
No, I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's a like long game, okay, you can put it in the beginning. I don't care, but like, whatever. Don't do the. We've talked about this in the past, where it's like, you the like crafting tutorial, right? The classic one. It's like, oh no, I need 2 blueberries. Can you go pick 2 blueberries? And you go 5 feet, and there's 2 blueberries, and you come back, and now you can create the blueberry pie or something, and it's like, great. What a waste of fucking time, right? Yeah, I could have just messed around with that workbench myself, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, go ahead first.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like Minecraft, for example. Like Minecraft is not like, oh, you know, like it's, you know, you get that grid, right, and you like put things in there, and you like, oh, I guess it makes this, right, or you look up on the wiki, right, which is fine as well. But my point is like, there's no like tutorial or whatever for that.
No, I mean they did try to do that with like the recipe book. I don't know if you.
Oh right, yeah. I don't care about the like newer stuff. I don't care.
No,
that's.
But like that thing is absolutely awful.
I mean, it's like, to be fair, everything in new Minecraft is awful actually. So
that is true. That is
I don't care about that.
Yeah. No, but I was just gonna say, like it's the drip feeding of mechanics that's the problem. Like if you're making a game, have all the mechanics in the game from the start. Don't make me play through 5 hours of the game to unlock all of the mechanics, because I can't evaluate if the game is interesting or not if I don't have all of the mechanics.
You can also not replay the game.
Yeah, that's also true.
Persona.
Well, you can, but yeah. Now, there was one thing you wanted to talk about, right? Before we leave for today.
I have no. What was that? I can talk about it.
You wanted to talk about feedback loops.
In what context?
Speed.
Speed?
Whatever. I'll take it.
I don't remember this.
Well, you mentioned this before the podcast, okay, so I hope you remember it now that I bring it up. Now I wanted to bring it up because you bringing it up made me think of something else.
Okay.
And that's like having a fast feedback loop makes the game easier to learn, right? Yeah. The game telling you that you're wrong right away makes it way easier. Now, this isn't necessarily always good, because sometimes you want decisions to have long-term consequences.
Yeah.
But
personally, though, sorry to interrupt you, but personally, I feel like even I recognize that some designers think differently, but in my opinion, in the cases where the feedback loop is longer, I still want the option to go in and like mess around with the different parts to make the feedback loop shorter, so I can figure out what's going on. For example, shmups, right? Shmups final, like getting to the final boss is gonna take a long time. I want to be able to practice the final boss, right? For example, right? So I can get a better feedback loop on like what is working against the final boss. But in the run, there's still the pressure, right? But I get all games don't want that, but that's what I want out of most games. So yeah, sorry, continue.
So I wanted to bring up RPGs, as I often do.
Right.
Because one problem with a lot of RPGs and like tactical RPGs and strategy RPGs and stuff like that is that they are way too easy. And there is a reason for that, and that is that these kinds of games are usually very long, like 50 hours, if not, like nowadays they're probably up to like 150 hours or something if you play like Baldur's Gate or whatever. I don't know if it's that long, maybe not, but whatever. The thing is that the feedback loop for these kinds of games is so goddamn long that if you made the game actually difficult, nobody could ever play them, basically. Like they could, but it would take like way too long.
You're specifically talking about the RPG mechanics here, right? They're like builds and stuff.
Yeah, exactly, builds. So the problem is that if you make a bad build early game, you will not get feedback for that until like mid to late game, which in an RPG that's 100 hours long, that's like 50 to 70 hours in. And the problem with that is that if you've made a really, really, really bad build, then once you've gone past like 50 to 70 hours, if the game is actually hard, you're gonna end up soft locking yourself, unless you can like respec everything. Then of course you're fine. But like if you can't do that, then you're gonna end up soft locking yourself because you can't progress because your builds are too bad. I guess this is just me complaining about long games, I guess, because if these games were shorter and like more difficult, they would be way more interesting, because you could actually get feedback from your decisions, right? Because what ends up happening, like, I don't really play that many RPGs anymore, but I used to a lot before. And what I always did when I played a new RPG was like I played that game for like 10 hours and then I restarted, and like because I didn't know how the like systems worked before. And so I need to play for a while to learn the systems, and then I restart and make an actually good build. Because like if I were to play through the game with my initial build, I would struggle so much because like it sucked. Like I probably would have been able to beat it, but it's like it would have taken longer because like
I mean you can
if the build is bad, the game takes longer.
With respecs and stuff, I guess, but
yeah, exactly. That's why respecs are so popular nowadays.
Yeah, I think those. I mean the obvious solution is to make the game short. I agree, but if they are long, I feel like they kind of need that. But maybe I.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of a modern RPG that doesn't have like basically free respecs. Like in the like early 2000s and stuff, that wasn't a given, but nowadays it is. And I think that's the reason, because people realize this. They realize that like, oh shit, you need to like restart the game if you make a bad build.
Or like you need to balance the game around the fact that someone can make a bad build, which is not interesting either. Right? Because then it's like,
well, that's what a lot of them end up doing also.
Right,
like,
which is that's super lame, right? Then because then it's like if you have a good build, then you're gonna steal.
Then you're just coasting through the game,
So that doesn't work either. So then you need the respec, otherwise it doesn't work.
I don't have anything to add. Do you have anything to add?
Millions of things, but you know they can only say so much in one episode, so.
True.
We'll have to save it for another time.
Don't forget to join our Discord, by the way. That's something we shouldn't forget. Join our Discord if you want to. There will be a link in the description. Other than that, thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, and a subscribe if you want to. Yeah. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.